Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. The story regarding former Bachelor Clayton Echard and the alleged claim that he knocked up his real estate client with twins has reached its fever pitch. I'm going to lay out for you guys all of the new documents that have been leaked online from previous men who claim that the same lady accused them of knocking her up in previous court documents, which include fabrication of emails, and as you can see right here, a fabrication of a sonogram. This story is beyond interesting. It's also tragic and very sad. Do me a solid. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals for updates on what I've got going on, and also patreon.com/Dave Neal for behind the scenes tea. It's getting wild out there. For everything I'm sharing publicly, there's more speculation going on Patreon as we put the facts together of this very insane story every afternoon. Bachelor Rush Hour, the hit podcast. I'm going to lay out for you guys how we got from this article right here by The Sun, which blew this story wide open on September 18th. Bachelor Clayton Echard's ex-fling demands he take paternity test in court case after she becomes pregnant with twins without any edits. We are going to talk our way right through this. We're going to go from there to sharing the court documents. I've redacted and removed all names and things like that. And we're going to go through all of the claims of fraud that were made, the witness statements, which were made under penalty of perjury, an order of protection, which was leaked, which we're going to get to, and also, as I said before, a reverse Google image search of what appears to be a sonogram that was found from a blog in 2015 that proves she has actually manipulated evidence to try to sucker men into thinking they're pregnant. And why? Well, in some cases, in order for them to remain dating her. Could it be a sick and twisted game? It appears like that is on the table. Now, we're going to wait for all of this to play out in the court of law, assuming Clayton decides that he wants to sue her for whatever sort of fraud that exists over here. There is a motion to dismiss where the defendant essentially calls the plaintiff, Jane Doe here, and calls her whole case complete baloney. And then we'll tie this all together and see if this is the big question, right? Does this all mean that Clayton isn't the father on this news scandal? No. But what I'm going to share with you guys is some wild testimony under oath in front of judicial officers and in front of judges and all of this that shows the exact same story that Clayton is telling. Were these men gaslighted by Jane Doe? Do they all share the same story? Are there others that exist out there? And how does it all tie back to Clayton? We're going to get into all of this right now. So, as I mentioned, we've covered that Clayton showed on his public timeline that he bought the paternity test, but he said even though he's taking this, he knows he's not the father. He's claimed he's never had sexual intercourse. Likewise, Jane Doe has only claimed they've been intimate. Now, how can you be intimate but not have sex? Was there some other scenario in which we're not too familiar with where she could become pregnant? We're not exactly familiar, but that'll be information that either comes out in court or doesn't. But what we can look at now is the leaking of some of these documents as they come out. So I'm going to go right through them right now. I've done as the best I could to redact all the information. Again, I don't have to do that. This is public information here. But first, here's a declaration of witness in support of the respondent in this case, which was Jane Doe versus this man. The person says, I had met redacted several times while she was dating redacted. This is somebody's like sister's brother or something, including a dinner with her family. I specifically remember being called by redacted to come to the apartment in December 2016 for a meeting with redacted and her father to discuss their desire to continue the relationship. She was claiming that she was pregnant and had been threatening redacted with not having an abortion if he ceased dating her. Additionally, redacted had been indicating to the redacted that she was contemplating suicide at the thought of their relationship ending. She wanted me to be there as a witness. So this story is one of several other stories that existed where it looks like in either 2016 and or 2021, she pulled the same prank on somebody else. Again, this doesn't mean that Clayton's not the father. This is just evidence that this kind of charade has already happened. During the meeting, which Jane Doe's father steered, she said that his daughter, so Jane Doe's father said his daughter had a tendency to exaggerate or even flat out make things up. Redacted was complaining of depression and suicidal thoughts at the fear of her relationship ending and was very distraught. During that meeting, there was no discussion of Redacted ever having been physically or psychologically abusive. She did not complain at all about Redacted's conduct towards her. She admitted that she was in fact not pregnant and there was no need for an abortion. She also apologized for threatening to commit suicide. The meeting ended with no final decision on the relationship, just the agreement that Redacted would not rush a decision and for the two of them to continue to work through things. Redacted was very thankful as he, the man in question, and myself left the apartment. In the elevator on the way out of the building, that he appreciated agreeing to not end the relationship outright and see how it goes, and then advised him to get out in a few weeks when his daughter had a chance to calm down and get a handle on her depression. I declare under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that the above is true and the correct, to the best of my knowledge, executed this 27th day of March 2018. So this was regarding the initial accusations from 2016. This is playing out in court in California. And again, this is somebody who was at the table who says she flat out denied it. She said she faked it. It did not exist. So here's the counterclaim of fraud. This is the claim that came after there was court papers to take a paternity test. I believe this was their response. And again, some of this information might be a little redundant, but we're going to work our way right through all of these documents that were leaked last night. And by the way, that doesn't mean this is all true. This just means that people under the court of law, where they could have penalty for perjury, which would basically mean lying under oath, this is their statements. And these are people that have put their name out there in these documents and that have said this is what happened. Upon information and belief, plaintiff knowingly, that's Jane Doe here, and falsely represented to defendant that she was pregnant with the intent to force defendant into a relationship with her, causing defendant consequence and proximate injury and damages as a result. Plaintiff filed her complaint on August 11th, 2021, alleging that she became pregnant with defendant's child on their second date. Now, hold on. This is no longer the 2016 story. Now we are back to the what appears to be, and again, apologies, we'll correct this if we get any information, but we don't have access to every single court document. But now we're on to the second male victim to this fake pregnancy. Okay? So this complaint is from 2021. Prior to filing her complaint, plaintiff Jane Doe provided sonographic images to defendant on August 6th and August 8th of 2021. However, a reverse Google Images search revealed that the sonographic images were identical to a sonogram found on a blog post from 2014. Upon information and belief, plaintiff, and you might say, how could she be so stupid to just take an image off the internet, claim that it's hers, and not think she was going to get caught? Well, she wasn't that stupid, okay? Upon information and belief, plaintiff altered the images by adding her name, date of birth, alleged location of the sonogram, and altered the appearance of the image to distinguish it from the one located on the aforementioned blog post. I'm not exactly sure what they're referring to. Did she stretch it a little bit? Did she add a perspective? I'm not really sure, but they are claiming that this image was just taken from the internet. To further this fictitious pregnancy, plaintiff, Jane Doe, sent defendant a fabricated email exchange dated August 19th, 2021 and August 22nd, 2021 between herself and California attorneys Allison E. Cordova and Joe Cotchett of Cotchett, Petre, and McCarthy. Tony Stevens, believed to be a legal assistant at the firm, is also carbon copied on the email dated August 19th, 2021. So now we're bringing in what appears to be actual lawyers who then might claim, as we're about to read, that they had nothing to do with this and that they fraudulently used their name for her, or Jane Doe fraudulently used their names for her fake letters that she was writing to the man here. Again, guys, these are wild claims. As far as this stands, in my eyes, this is the craziest, also saddest story to ever come out of Bachelor Nation. At this point, the reason why I'm not saying Jane Doe's name, even though a lot of these documents are public, and I think I'd be legally perfectly fine saying it, is because at this point, it's less about outing her, and maybe that time will come, but at this point, right now, it's about Clayton. It's about Clayton Echard and the false accusations made against him, and it's about championing him, a guy who's had a rough go in Bachelor Nation, all for essentially, in some decisions that might not be liked by others on TV, but for telling his own truth. And this is not the first time or second. It's actually the third time in which he's been involved with strangers making things up about him. And a lot of people, not believing him at first. And some have. In the fraudulent email dated August 19th, 2021, Associate Allison Cordova allegedly emailed plaintiff Jane Doe in pertinent part the following. So again, this is alleged to be fraudulent. Sent on behalf of Joe Cotchett, re Jane Doe's pregnancy. So here's the email. I'm going to read it for you. Again, this is the fraudulent email that she, according to these court documents, put together with the lawyers, and the lawyers say, this ain't it. Everything you told us about pregnancy tests and ultrasounds aligned with the timing you provided us. There were no past pregnancies on your record, and the 3 obstetricians you saw felt that pregnancy was very consistent with intercourse that took place between June 30th and July 1st. It must feel like you have the weight of the world on you, but I have no doubt that the jury will sympathize with your situation. The next step is to fill out the attached retention agreement. Persons whom defendant counterclaimant believes may have knowledge or information relevant to the events that gave rise to this action. So this is them citing their sources. And we'll probably have a lot of lawyers that can really help me out. I don't know if you guys know, I'm leaving the country today on a I'm actually heading across the world. It's 5:14 in the morning. We got this information around midnight. I got a little bit of sleep, but I'm just letting you guys know if I miss anything, please forgive me. We're trying to gather all of this and kind of go through it here. So this is where they kind of cite their sources. These are the lawyers that will confirm that this story is, fraudulent. So they're believed to have knowledge or information regarding Jane Doe plaintiffs' seemingly fraudulent emails purportedly authored by Joseph Cotchett and lawyers that have not worked at the firm for quite some time. Redacted is believed to have knowledge or information regarding allegations plaintiff lodged against him in the past and alleged emotional distress and plaintiff Jane Doe's allegedly sustained as a result, and plaintiff's admission regarding her fabrication of a pregnancy and subsequent abortion during their relationship in 2016. So some of this goes back to 2016. Some of it goes back to 2021. When we're looking at the 2021 court days, they're saying, look, go back to 2016. And now Clayton, if he decides to sue, can say, look, go back to 2021, go back to 2016. We're seeing not just a random black swan event. We're actually seeing the same thing happening multiple times. And that's probably the biggest reason for maybe making this public in the future. If this has gone through the court system twice, couldn't one say there might be other cases? If this was a case of something very sinister, where someone assaulted somebody else, you would say, well, if this has happened 3 times through the court system, there must be people that never came forward and all of this. By this going public and by her using Clayton in this manner in getting the press and everything, she might have thought that she was going to be hiding behind sealed court documents and this and that, but the cases just aren't sealed. They exist out there. This is information that exists out there, public records. So then they share all of the other people that have public records of Jane Doe plaintiff's admissions regarding her fabrication of a pregnancy and subsequent abortion during her relationship with Redacted in 2016. So anyway, you can see right there that there are multiple cases being made. So now we go to a case here, a motion to dismiss. This is essentially some of the same information, but I'm going to read some new stuff here. The plaintiff is Jane Doe. And the defendant is the guy here that, claims that she made all this up. By and through undersigned counsel hereby respectfully moves to dismiss Jane Doe plaintiff's complaint pursuant to Rule 12b-6, Arizona Rules of Civil Procedure, as plaintiff has failed to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. As and for his motion, the defendant states and alleges as follows. Upon information and belief, plaintiff is not pregnant, and all claims being alleged against him must fail as a result. So all the claims that she had put in the court system, he says, none of these matter. It's kind of like how there's all this anger about how mean Clayton was. It's if he's not the father, if it's all made up, then it doesn't matter how mad he was because he knew he wasn't the father because he knew he hadn't had sex with her. Plaintiff filed her complaint. And again, there might be some miraculous conception that happens with Clayton's case, which we're going to look at. We're just setting up all of the backstory here. Plaintiff filed her, am I being fair enough, folks? I'm trying. Plaintiff, Jane Doe, filed her complaint on August 11th, 2021, alleged that she became pregnant with Redacted's child on their second date. Prior to filing the complaint, plaintiff provided sonographic images. Okay, so this is all information we already shared. To further this fictitious pregnancy, plaintiff sent an fabricated email exchange, and this is where it gets interesting. We shared with you what she said here, and this was showed in this set of court documents, but now we're going to have a response coming in from that law firm. So this is what was said. I'm ready to get started on the second you give me the go-ahead. Again, this is also fabricated. So we have the first part, which was fabricated, and then the second part, allegedly. I'm ready to get started on this the second you give me the go-ahead. This is allegedly from the lawyer to Jane Doe, and she's forwarding that on. I'm always here for you whenever you need me, and if you want me to go after this guy, I will make this case a top priority. Again, fan fiction, because I really feel for you right now. Allison sent me over the retention agreement and medial files. This may be very needy, and we would make this a public interest story with the snap of a finger. Be careful what you wish for. It is now a public interest story. In response, Jane Doe, plaintiff, allegedly emailed Joe Cochit, the lawyer, back on August 22nd, 2021, stating in pertinent part as follows. And again, this is all what has been made up here, allegedly. I think the best call is to pursue alternative service and try to get him twice, once by posting on his house door and the other by calling his company and finding a coworker to serve him. I think you're right that you would be better at making those phone calls than me. I texted you the coworkers who we could ask to serve. So this is the fake lawyer. Now it's a real lawyer, but he doesn't know he's part of this ruse. And this is the Jane Doe saying, you know what, as the fake lawyer, why don't we have you call him? Because obviously, why would he call? Because he's not actually part of this. Jane Doe's alleged email exchange with Cordova and Cochit was emailed to Redacted on August 22nd, 2021 with the subject line, urgent, copy of conversation with Joe Cochit and contract, along with a manufactured, fabricated contingent fee agreement between plaintiff. Okay, so she's got her receipts even fabricated. Upon information and belief, neither Allison Cordova nor Tony Stevens is currently employed at the firm, nor were they employed at the firm as of August 19th and August 22nd of 2021. I think this just goes to show how a lot of times we'll believe things if they're half truths. If someone can say, well, someone worked at a law firm and she used the name of that law firm, it must be from that law firm, which in most cases would be true. But in this case, the lawyers in question that she fabricated to send to this guy to bully him and harass him, really, and fraudulently claim that she's got all this kind of like legal force behind her. It was all smoke and mirrors. Believing that there was fraud in Jane Doe's underlying complaint, undersigned counsel reached out to the purported attorneys in California who appear to completely disavow any connection to this cause, as an email dated August 24, 2021, sent on behalf of Joseph Cochit, indicating the firm does not represent plaintiff Jane Doe in this matter. All subsequent emails from undersigned counsel requesting to speak with Joseph Cochit about the seemingly fraudulent emails purportedly authored by Joseph Cochit and lawyers that have not worked at the firm for quite some time went without any substantive response. All right, we're working through it, folks. Here's where it gets interesting. Oh, you thought that was the interesting part? No. In addition to fabricating documents, plaintiff has refused to take a non-invasive prenatal paternity test, despite undersigned counsel informing her on August 27, 2021, that they had scheduled the test for her. In response, plaintiff stated she was willing to take a paternity test to prove that the child is his. Again, this being what I believe to be victim number 2, but that it would be possible that she would not be pregnant, as, quote, I'm unsure what the purpose is, because if the pregnancy is not viable, that proves that his coercion did result in the end of the pregnancy. Essentially, plaintiff has fabricated, Jane Doe, the abortion coercion allegation to explain why a paternity test would show that she is not pregnant. Additionally, as a filing, plaintiff has not taken a paternity test despite Mr. Redacted repeated offers to pay for the test. Upon information and belief, Jane Doe plaintiff's allegations of abortion coercion, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and domestic violence are quite simply blatant fabrications that underlie her real intention: to force Mr. Redacted into a relationship with her. In an email with undersigned counsel on August 23, 2021, plaintiff stated he can contact me, there's the number, if he rethinks his decision regarding a relationship and if he would like to be a part of pregnancy decisions going forward. So to me that reads, I'll let you decide if we keep or dismiss the kid if you decide to be with me. Is it because she's desperate for a boyfriend, or is it because it's part of a power kind of trip, or some combination of both? Furthermore, if plaintiff Jane Doe were actually pregnant, this should be an establishment action pursuant to ARS, not actions for domestic, for DV, abortion coercion, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Finally, if this complaint is not dismissed for failure to state a claim upon which a relief can be granted, Redacted will immediately be filing counterclaims for fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Here's the text message that was sent to the defendant here from the plaintiff, Jane Doe. Friday, August, I think 6th or 8th here, 8:24 p.m., I believe. And this actually, if this is the blurred version, but this is an ultrasound image, and there is her name up here and some other information, family planning center or whatever. And this is what she had to say. Looks like you're going to be a dad to 1 or 2 babies. What's that? Could it possibly be twins? That's the same thing she said to Clayton. I looked it up. They said on average, there's a 3% chance of having twins, but what's the chance of having twins twice? Was sick enough, and this is what she said, was sick enough to go to the clinic this afternoon, had to get an ultrasound to make sure I wasn't having an ectopic pregnancy. I wasn't. I found out that I've been pregnant with twins. Looks like one of them passed or isn't doing well, probably because of the medicine I took. I had the option of a surgical abortion and elected not to. If I'm going through this on my own, I will let God decide if he wants both, one or none to be born. And the kid or kids would deserve to know their father's side of the family. And then she says at the bottom, I'm giving you one more shot, and then it cuts off. Well, again, in the court documents, this is the image that she sent, but by using Google Lens, by using, I believe, reverse imaging, which I've never personally used, when this was thrown through the reverse imaging, it showed up a blog from blogspot.com, I Still Believe Vanishing, which has a and maybe she found this blog, which was obscure and thought she could get away with it. But whatever she did to search for allegedly, whatever she did to search for a sonogram online would then be, found by the reverse searching. So we're going to get to what I believe to be the most damning piece of evidence in a second here. But I want to respond to what Clayton had to say with regards to his case. She wrote in court documents, Clayton's behavior since the pregnancy test has been cold and heartless. He has come up with bizarre scenarios where he has claimed that I only wanted to explore a relationship with him because I wasn't actually pregnant, but wanted to get pregnant with his child during that time, even though I had been very clear that I had no expectations of having sex with him if we did. She continued, he then said that my anti-epileptic meds made me test positive, which I quickly disproved. Or maybe I was taking fertility drugs or weight loss pills that altered the results. So what we have here is the truest definition of gaslighting. She allegedly made him become paranoid and made him look like someone who couldn't see reality. And again, the 2 cases in the past could stand alone. And it could be that there's some crazy scenario. Clayton's lying through his teeth. But I'm going to let you guys decide about this right now as this plays out. As Clayton now has taken his paternity test, they're supposed to be meeting today, Thursday, the 28th of September. Will they actually meet? If it's delayed for any reason whatsoever, I would, and again, through the court system here, they're supposed to have a pre-trial meeting or whatever. But if it's delayed for any reason, I would be very suspicious as to why. Let's go back. This is from Phoenix, Arizona, August 12th, 2021. And this is a this is an order of protection, which is the same as a order of restrainment or very similar. Defendant, plaintiff relationship, romantic or sexual relationship. So this is from the guy who said, I need legal protection from this lady. And here's what he had to say after receiving that information that there was a fake sonogram and all of that. This is what he had to say. And now he's the plaintiff, right? Because this is his case. The defendant and I went on 3 dates. We had a sexual relationship one evening. I politely ended the relationship 9 days after our first encounter. She did not take the rejection well, at which point I understood, listened, but politely let her know that there will not have a future relationship together and to stop contacting me. She continued to harass me for 48 hours. I asked her to stop reaching out. 24 hours went by with no contact. 11 days after we were sexually intimate, she sent me a photo of a positive pregnancy test, though we used 2 forms of protection during our one encounter. She continued to harass me via text messages through 14 different email accounts and iMessages, all of which I have since blocked. She threatened to reach out to my family, located them on public records, reached out to my mother, threatened to expose me on her Apple iTunes self-help podcast. She sent me photoshopped images of an ultrasound that is from an article on Google dated January 12th, 2015. I had an OBGYN confirm this ultrasound. She is claiming to be hers of twins is an exact from the Google article from 2015. She has shown up to my home 2 times after being asked not to come there. After blocking all 14 iMessage accounts, which she has continually harassed me from since July 9th, she now is reaching out to me, making threats of lawsuits to my work email address. She has contacted the HR department in my company to confirm my email address and is threatening my career and reputation at my place of work as of yesterday and today. She is showing no signs of stopping. The defendant is stating she is in love with me after 3 dates, roughly 2 hours each date, and is promising to have an abortion and dismiss pressing charges if I commit to loving her, marrying her, and starting a family with her within the next 2 years. I have repeatedly asked the defendant to stop contacting myself, my family, and my place of work, and to also stop coming to my home, banging on my door and ringing my doorbell. I have all text messages and emails saved. I also have photographs of her outside of my home trying to contact me. I am scared for my reputation and safety, and it is time to serve her a legal order of protection. If all of this is true, all of the court documents about her manipulating pregnancies and really using what is a gift, a miracle, the female body. The female body is a miracle that can create life, and with that comes so much heartbreak, which is miscarriages and stillbirths. And so many people have stories of struggle. If she is weaponizing that against these men, she should be exposed. And this shouldn't be used in any sort of way moving forward for other people, other victims that have true stories. You know, the idea behind Believe Women is like who in their right mind would lie about these types of things, and no one would in their right mind. And that's why carefully we discuss this without using her name publicly, because it is that sort of publicity that I believe she would use to then claim that due to duress, she lost the quote-unquote babies that may or may not actually exist. And that's what we've been claiming all along. Have a listen to yesterday's video. Talk about it. I would absolutely hate to be adding to a conversation that is so icky, speculating on whether or not someone's going to take the test or not take the test. But this is what she's been accused of already. This isn't my making up some crazy fan fiction. She's been accused of convincing someone that she's pregnant and then loses child, in which case she wouldn't take her side of the test. Those are the accusations that have been out there. It's almost like a bulletproof defense she has. She goes, I can accuse these guys of all these crazy things. I can run it through the court system. I can even try to seal this so people don't know my name, but I can do all of these different things here. And then when it's my time to own up to my end of the genetic testing or the DNA testing, whatever it is, miscarriage, which is completely insane. So, other ways in which we're going to tie this to Clayton. She has actually set up a claim that she's going to be under emotional distress by making Clayton out to be this big bad guy. She's got the legal system involved. She called Scottsdale police. Have a listen. Fears for safety. On July 31st, a woman was concerned about her safety, so she sent a letter to the Scottsdale Police Department. The subject of the email, as seen by the U.S. Sun, is as follows: threats, intimidation, verbal abuse, endangerment, and extortion from Clayton Eckerd. In the email that's part of a court exhibit, the woman wrote, when I told him I was pregnant, he started writing erratic, illogical, and threatening messages. He has been clear that being a father has not been in his life plan and would get in the way of his dating and professional life. The email continued, I am very concerned about my safety, and I don't know what actions Clayton will take because he is so volatile, controlling, demeaning, and hateful. I have asked him on many occasions to reassure me that he will not hurt me or our unborn babies, and he will not respond to that simple question. I told him I would file a police report if he didn't. So she's alleging what's going on here, as it appears, is that she's putting a paper trail in there for when she does miscarry, which, guys, trust me when I say, I am in a tough position to be talking about this because this all sounds horrible. But we have to talk about this beforehand so that when it happens, we can reference it and say, look, we've been saying this for a few weeks, that all of these scenarios, and if the first two cases didn't exist, we'd have to keep our mouths shut here. But because these other cases exist, where she has literally said, if I go back to it, where she was she literally said that in response, she's willing to take a test, but she doesn't even know she's pregnant anymore because who knows if the pregnancy is viable after all of the coercion and nonsense she's already had to deal with. So why wouldn't that story work again? And when you think about Clayton, and this is something I have to remind people, when you see a guy like Clayton, he's a big, strong guy. You see he could be menacing. Maybe if he's not smiling, he looks like this angry brute. He's proven to be nothing but a kind man who has a faith in God, a guy who's worked really hard to, walk on to college football and even professional football. He made a pro football squad for a short time here. He's dedicated his life now to talking about mental health after all the fallout he's had. And yet, look at these messages. She said, you're acting like the victim, and that's the problem. I don't know why you are when I have said we can have discussions about what to do. You haven't thought about me in this or how it would affect my life once. His response, I am the victim. You are trying to trap me. It's that simple. And then he goes on and on. God doesn't want this for us. I don't know why you think he does. And then he says, the conversation goes on, and he plays right into her hand, which is that he's some crazy guy who's trying to force an abortion on her, when in fact he doubted that she ever had a kid in the first place because they never had sexual intercourse, which people will, to leave people with questions. If they didn't have sexual intercourse, how could their quote unquote being intimate lead to a baby? Well, either A, it doesn't, or B's lying, or C, he's been telling his truth the whole time, and through some crazy, ridiculous, blowjob turned, insemination story, it became something else. I don't believe that to be the case. My opinion after checking out all this info is that she's lying about it. She will not take a paternity test, and then it'll come to, she'll lean on the fact that she's, the victim here, and all of this public conversation regarding her has led to this emotional distress. But the public conversation exists because she, went through the media here, even though she didn't do it publicly with her name being attached. Some people have questioned why she would do all this. And apparently, and we're going to dive deeper into this, but apparently with the past allegations and the past cases, she's used them to champion herself as some sort of victim through her TED Talks and self-help podcast. It's a crazy story, folks. Look, this ain't TikTok, okay? I couldn't have done this in 30 seconds. I had to read it all for you. So I appreciate your grace. I know people in the last video tried to comment her name in the comment section. We're going to be deleting that. You can go to the court systems or Google if you want to find out who she is, but we're going to let this continue to play out. It's less about her and more about someone like Clayton and saying, look, I think she messed with the wrong community. I think she did this in the past, got away with it. Maybe she thought the documents were sealed, but she had no idea the depths that Bachelor audience would go to get to the bottom of the story and get to the truth. And while a lot of people believed her, a faceless random person, over Clayton, I think it's important we follow the gut here. And Clayton hasn't lied to us before, and until proven otherwise, I think we have to assume he's not lying to us now. Let me know what you guys think, and thanks for sticking around. This was a fascinating, and I don't mean that in a positive way, a very tragic story.